Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris Branson, and welcome to Cards Subject to Change podcast. This is my first foray into podcasting, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a history on me. I am a longtime professional wrestling fan. I am a veteran, as you can see above me. I am a devoted girl dad. Uh, I'm a collector of Funko Pops, as you can see. More WWE, some other genres. I have been a fan of the professional wrestling business for well over 35 years now. So I've been able to see what we have called the golden 80s era, the emergence of the rise and fall of WCW and ECW eras, as well as the Attitude Era. I've been through Ruthless Aggression, the PG era, and now we are heading into what we are famously calling the Triple H era, the Levesque era, the Renaissance era of professional wrestling, or the post McMahon era. I am taking a foray into this just, to kind of give my knowledge and opinion as a fan on what I feel, what I see. I'm not trying to tell Paul Levesque or Tony Khan or uh, Court, Court Bauer or anybody who has the pencil what to do. I'm not. It's not what I'm here for. I'm just here to give a perspective from you. Yes, you, the fans' point of view. Um, I'm going to shoot from the hip. There are going to be times I'm going to call out WWE for nonsense and BS. Yeah, I will cuss on here, so be aware of that. But also, with things going on in other companies, I'm not gonna sugarcoat either. So if something comes off hinky, stupid, ridiculous in TNA, AEW, New Japan, MLW, and the list goes on of those who have a front row seat for America and the world to see their product, I'm going to say something. So we're going to go from there to a little bit of housekeeping, getting the broom out, taking the dustpan, collecting up a little bit of the dirt. And this is where I'm going to shoot from the hip from first. Between Friday with SmackDown and Hall of Fame to something that happened this morning with AEW. I'm going to start with, the WWE events that have been going on. With SmackDown. That was a good SmackDown. Really good SmackDown. Kind of kept the matches that we're going to see, relevant. Uh kind of foreshadowed who we're going to see, Saturday night in the ladder match, in what we're going to see come Sunday, really kind of stand out. The hints being dropped, the promos. Friday we weren't going to see much wrestling. We all know we weren't. We were going to see an entry angle with Dragon Lee and the introduction of Andrade into night one. Also, one of the things that I think got the point across about what Friday night really was more important too was the Hall of Fame. Okay. To have Paul Heyman, who is the headliner, the top dog, should have been coming on last, go first, was actually a nice touch. You know, they call the first match of any card the heater because as you see on TV, you can put your two best workhorses at first 30 minutes of television, put them out there, let them shine up the product. The rest of the card between match one and the main event can probably end up being a little boring, a little mundane, could, stink out the house. But you want that first match to hmm, really set the tone. Well, Paul Heyman set the tone. He carried the torch for not only himself, but the talent he has helped make better and the talent he's wanting to help make better, to make main event stars, so that every match on the card, as he was saying, you have a main eventer. You can insert this person here and they'll shine. With that being said, also going to Bull Nakano, you know, she pinpointed that she wanted to be in WWE 20 years ago. That run with the Lunder Blaze, Medusa, whatever you want to call her, um, should have expanded the women's division to where a Jacqueline, a Trish Stratus, a Lita. So what should have been the evolution with Medusa, Lunder Blaze, and Bull Nakano should have happened back in their time. To where women should have been front and center as far as a new era at their point in time. Um, yes, language barrier aside, she got out the point that, she loved professional wrestling in the States, in Japan. And, getting to see some of her contemporaries, her peers, the heir apparent to her, Kana, or as some of us know her, Asuka, uh, Kairi Sane, Io Sky, or Io Shirai, uh, to see Dakota Kai, a Kaijin. I'm probably saying that wrong. I'm probably going to get jumped later for it. But hey, you know what? This is a first. You can only have your first moment. Um, to have a lot of women who saw her and the spiky hair and the blue crack shattering one side of her face. You know, as a kid, Bull Nakano scared me. I'd look at TV and I'd be scared, shitless by looking at that woman. And it wasn't because, she's intimidating or the image. She's intimidating. She pulled no punches when she made you actually fear for her opponent. And, you know, her into the Hall of Fame was long overdue. I'm not kidding. That woman should have been in a WWE Hall of Fame like she's in a lot of other Hall of Fames, I'm sure, long before she ever was. That, as Paul said, was a staple of how outstanding the first class under him was. And yeah, probably sure Dwayne Johnson had some influence with Paul Levesque's choices. But somebody tell me that Leah Maivia, the first female, well, I'm pretty sure I'm wrong about this, but you know what? because the Jarretts. Forgot about Jeff Jarrett's grandmother. Um, that the Maiavias, if there was no Peter Maivia, and there was no Alpha and Sika, and there was no now Dwayne the Rock Johnson, Roman Reigns, Yokozuna, Rikishi slash the Sultan slash uh, Fatu of the Samoan Hit Squad. And I'm pretty sure the Samoan SWAT team, excuse me, that if there was no Leah Maivia, there would have been none of that. And yes, you have to have a mother to birth a dynasty. And that's what Leah Maivia was. She was a mother that birthed a dynasty that we're getting to see today, that we saw last night in WrestleMania with Rock and Roman and Jimmy and Jay. You know, and I'll get on to those matches here in a little bit. But, you know, that was for as much as she could say, and for Bull Nakano. Thunderbolt Patterson. Thunderbolt Patterson is the reason why Dusty Rhodes was so influential. Is because the way that Thunderbolt talked was exactly the way that Dusty got himself over because of his mouth. Not just because of his in-ring work, because of his mouth. That mouth then became the brain that built 1,000 pay-per-views and 1,000 careers. Whether it was NWA, Florida Championship Wrestling from Florida under the Graham territories, WWF, WWF, or WWE, ECW even. Paul Heyman said it in his speech and looked dead straight at his youngest child. I wish your father was here. As you can see right behind me, all the people that Paul Heyman influenced, all the people that Triple H has had a hand in. I've got the Cody Funkos. I've got the Triple H Funkos sitting right here. I have Flair. I have Dusty. I have Undertaker. I even have Paul Heyman sitting right there. He's out of the camera shot, but you know, that's the thing. Is that Paul Heyman and these men all right here, you know, they all mean something to my fandom as a professional wrestling fan. You know, Leon White, Cactus Jack. I have them sitting side by side. And I think I have under, you know, Kurt Angle, who I consider probably one. If there was a Rushmore where you just didn't have 4, you had 6 or 10. Kurt Angle is in my at least top 5 all time. Guaranteed. Why I say this is because Kurt Angle could go out there and shine in the ring. Now let me pull this back to Thunderbolt Patterson. Thunderbolt was a pioneer. Yeah, he wasn't WWE champion, and his time came before WWE, WWF. But Thunderbolt Patterson, where he walked, and Ernie Cat, the big cat lad, and Bobo Brazil, where they walked, gave an opportunity for Ron Simmons and Booker T and Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Kofi Kingston and Swerve Strickland, and, and I could name 100 worthy Black American talents the opportunity to run, to be over the top. A Bianca Belair, a Jay Cargill, a Naomi, to show out, show up, and be that on the biggest stage in professional wrestling. A Moose, to go from football, where a lot of Black professional wrestlers did come from, were other sports. And not because they failed in that sport, but because, hey, what this sport couldn't take advantage of here, professional wrestling took, broke down, remolded, rebuilt, or inserted to, and magnified the person. You know, one of the things that Bubba Ray Dudley, is famous for saying is what Vince or Eric or Paul took from you was, hey, let's take this part of your personality and turn it up to 11. Said it many times. You know, I'm an avid Bust Open listener, so if this ever gets to Dave LaGreca or Tommy Dreamer or Bully Ray or whoever, you know, as a fan, and Dave LaGreca says it famously, I have my Echo sitting somewhere over here, behind the Sentinel, that as a fan, they all were first fans before they were ever even in the business. Dave LaGreca, longtime fan. Me, longtime fan. Dave LaGreca could probably talk more about the NWA than I can. You know, I grew up as the NWA was turning into WCW, and the NWA broke away from WCW when the Crockett era ended. Let's see here. Who else was inducted last night besides Liam Thunderbolt? Okay. Muhammad Ali. You know, if you're a fan sitting there saying Muhammad Ali didn't deserve a WWE Hall of Fame induction, you probably shouldn't watch WWE. You probably should never say you were a fan of The Rock. You should probably never say you were a fan of much of anybody. Because if it wasn't for Muhammad Ali, bombastic, could back it up in the ring, just like he backed it up when he talked. If you're going to sit there and say that Muhammad Ali didn't deserve that spot, stop watching this now. Okay? Muhammad Ali, Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, CM Punk, Roman Reigns. Why do I even name those gentlemen in that line? Is because of those eras. Those were your mouthpieces. Their walk was only defined by their talk. And yes, some overstayed their welcome. And we're not going to get into that here. But yes, those men took what Muhammad Ali taught and just magnified it. Just straight up magnified it. Okay. You know, they say that they're the best in the world, the greatest of all time, the Babe Ruth, the Muhammad Ali, because there was a Babe Ruth who went out there and smacked 700 some odd home runs by the time before he passed. That Muhammad Ali, for 20 something years, was one of the most dominant heavyweight boxing champions of all time. And let's go back to WrestleMania 1. WrestleMania 1, if there was no Muhammad Ali, that main event wouldn't have shined between a Roddy Piper, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, a Hulk Hogan, and Mr. T. You know, I I say usually that WCW or an NWA, the Sting Ric Flair match is the reason why I'm a professional wrestling fan. Now, mind you, I'm a 3-year-old kid in 1988 watching Clash of Champions with my grandfather, who we famously watched WCW Chicago on WGN, one of the first true superstations like WTBS. Jack Brickhouse and Gordon Soley and Tony Schiavone call matches back then. You know, it was on, I believe, they shot it on the same set as Saturday night there at Center Stage. But it was aired for the Chicago audience and was one of the first true shows that wasn't TBS or USA. So you could sit there and say that probably WCW did set out the first sole syndication for a sole network. All now we have with NXT going to the CW. Let's see here. Honestly, I think I've overtalked night one. Oh, the card for night one, WrestleMania. I think it was well chosen who went over, who got over. Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley. Rhea last night at the press conference said that the women that she now collectively beat in beating Becky Lynch last night, and Becky Lynch should be applauded for being sick, going out there. You know, she should be considered one of the greatest women of her generation. Point blank. Can't tell me otherwise. Why do I say this? Because she went out there with 102-degree temperature, with strep throat, barely able to breathe in and out through her mouth. That needs to be commended. Straight up. You know, but what if she gets Rhea sick? Well, Rhea went out there, accepted the risk that she might get sick too. But her and Rhea went out there and threw down and gave one hell of an opener match. And remember, I said at the beginning of this, you know, you want your heater to go first. Remember what Paul said in his speech, that I get to work with Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. Those two women went and had them a Paul Heyman moment. Went out there, heated the place up for what right one was going to go to. Then you had the ladder match afterwards. Do I think this was booked the right way? Yeah. Would I have rather different champions? Would I have rather a Grayson Waller and an Austin Theory breakup? Sure. But Austin Theory and Grayson Waller are destined to be the next generation of greatness in WWE. Bar none. Oh, but Austin Theory is like John Cena. No, Austin Theory is Austin Theory. John Cena is John Cena. Grayson Waller is Grayson fucking Waller. And I emphasize that because he is the total package. He can talk, he can wrestle, he can get on your nerves, or he can make TV compelling and get you behind him. So if Grayson Waller ever listens to this podcast or this link, yes, you have a fan. And I am giving Grayson Waller my rub. I am nobody, but that man is worth a rub, worth a seal of approval, can go take a bump and keep on ticking. He is every minute of the investment that Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Matt Bloom and Robbie Brookside and all of these amazing minds. Sarah D'Amato. I'm pretty sure Sarah D'Amato has a hand in some of the men. Okay. There are amazing minds down there that teach, that educate these men and women, whether they come from the indies, NIL. NXT is the next generation. And we're seeing that with the exception of The Rock and maybe Miz, Drew McIntyre, and R-Truth, is solely the generation of Triple H now. The other ones I named were, came into the picture while Vince McMahon ran the show. But in all honesty, yes, this is solely the Triple H era from top to bottom of the card. Because Triple H ran NXT. So his kids, Dusty's kids, are now what we see on a Saturday and Sunday night, the first weekend of April every year, or the last weekend of March, depending on where the cards may fall, where the date subject to change. Card subject to change. Where the date subject to change. When you're on that Saturday and Sunday, that night 1, night 2, you're there because you showed your reason why to be there. And this is not a slap at any of the talent that doesn't get to be on there. I would love to have had Ivar and Bronson Reed. I love me a good super heavyweight fight. That could have been a heater match. That could have got the crowd going. Hell, Shane McMahon and AJ Styles, I think, were the first match of WrestleMania 33. And they stole the show from the first effing match. Okay. So, all things aside, I think who ended up with the championships, a heel team and a babyface team, even though Austin Truth was better as a heel team. Having Miz and R-Truth as the perfect odd couple baby faces. Perfect. Miz keeping Truth in check for his left field and loopy as Truth can be. Let me put a special shout out to Ron Killings. Okay. That man has deserved more than an Intercontinental and a Hardcore and a 247 day, 24 hour and 7-day a week championship run. The man is an former NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. Okay. Put some respect on R-Truth's name. More titles on his back before that man rides off into the sunset. And he's 50 plus years old. And he has the energy and the ability to just deliver. How many can you say broke Brock Lesnar on live television? How many? Not many. R-Truth is probably one of one, if anybody. Let's see here. Let's go. Then it went to the Jay and Jimmy match, I believe. A little underwhelming. A little undercooked. It was a little raw. Did the right person go over? Yes. Jay, and I'm not, I said to a friend of mine last night, I said, Jimmy is like his dad. That's where Jay is Shawn Michaels. Kishi was this good torchbearer for a generation of WWE. When he was a part of WWE with Too Cool, he was his own man, especially when he broke away, and especially when he tried to be a heel. Jay is main event Jey Uso. He is the right hand of the tribal chief. He is what is branching off and becoming their own of the bloodline. Does Jay deserve a world heavyweight championship run one of these days? Sure. He's compelling. He's charismatic. He has talent. I'm pretty sure if you take away the splash and the super kick, he can come up with something else to entertain you with on a constant basis on TV every night and every PLE, pay-per-view, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Let's see here. It looked to me like Jay or if you did shots in that match, or it was a little stiff. Jimmy was a little shook. But in the end, those two got the point across. And hopefully the sibling rivalry is over. Maybe, hey, we saw Infinity War last night. We're getting Endgame. And we're seeing Nebula and Gamora. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Even though the Gamora was killed off, Gamora is Jimmy. Nebula is Jay. And they finally turn on Thanos, which is Roman. And yeah, you got not Ebony Maw, Solo playing the big enforcer for Thanos. He's gonna sit there and fall. And let's see here. Rock? I don't know. I said this on my Twitter, and you could see my stuff at the following place: CB Dog 83 on Instagram and Threads. Even though I don't even think I even have my Threads profile on right now. As well as excuse me, SECB 1983 on the little Twitter machine, the X machine, X Twitter, the floppy bluebird, the big X cross, whatever you call that thing. And I'll get into night 2 a little bit here later. But here's something else to think about night 1. You want the pot to simmer. You don't want to boil just yet. You want to get to the crescendo, the apex, the climax at the right time. If you climax night 1, what's the point of night 2? What really is? I think the way that the card was booked and the matches fell were perfect this year. They all serve where they're supposed to simmer and boil and crest. Gunther and Sammy. For Sammy, that Rocky-like entrance into his match against Gunther was amazing. To have his wife there, his son there, little Rocky Jr., I guess you could say. To have his Adrian. To have his Apollo in Chad Gable. Or whatever you want. Not old. Is not Burgess Meredith. He's not an old man. He's not. But Chad Gable is that guy that they know they can put a company on the back of. He can entertain, but knows it's not his time yet. It should be his time. I'm a Chad Gable stan all day long. I have been since he stood out on a stage in Dallas, Texas at Takeover Dallas. Ironically, in the same pay-per-view that a Sami Zayn set the world on fire with Shinsuke Nakamura. Okay? That they had a 5-star classic in Dallas, Texas. Screw Dave Meltzer. I don't give two shits about how he feels about something because I think he makes a mess of professional wrestling. He makes it to where, okay, I'm off my Meltzer before I go too far. But Sami Zayn and Gunther, bad mother trucking Austrian. He is another man that they should saddle the frickin' rocket to and just let him go. He can have the greatest heel heavyweight championship run of all time if you give him the opportunity to have it. He can have legendary matches with a Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre. You've already seen it on TV that he has had these matches. And then he can make stars beyond being a star himself. Another thing, the fact that there was no outside interference, that it was just Gunther and it was Sammy. And they just wrestled and they told a story and they built a story to that crescendo that I was just talking about with the multiple haluva kick finish. That it took multiple haluva kicks and turnbuckle brainbuster to finish the ring general. That it took the ring general being literally decimated finally. And for somebody to have to do that to him. Gunther, if you ever get a chance to hear this podcast, may your chance to be a heavyweight champion, whether on Raw or SmackDown, be soon enough. Okay. The fact, yeah, I would have loved Chad Gable to be in that match and standing there with Sami Zayn, maybe Sami Zayn or Chad Gable holding the other's arm up when they finally finished the ring general. Yeah. But last night was a perfect world for Sami Zayn. And you could not be mad with that finish. He was the ultimate underdog in NXT. He's been the ultimate underdog in SmackDown and Raw. He was somebody that was unassuming when he was a member of the Bloodline, even though he was the honorary use. And I think this side, I'm going to change that up in the next couple days. The Marvel side's going to move down one, and I'm going to put the Bloodline on that shelf, not the Kirk Spock shelf. Anyhow, here. I know I'm missing a match. I feel like I'm missing a match. Oh, Jade Cargill in the big three. Or Bianca Belair in the big three. Or whatever you want to call it. Okay? Whatever you want to call it in regards to that match against Damage Control. It's a good match. It highlighted everybody. It gave everybody a spot. Besides Jade Cargill, the one I was happiest to see in the match was Dakota Kai. For that young woman to have gone through all the injuries and stuff over the last couple of years while with NXT, to get her to see her have her WrestleMania moment was amazing. Okay. Mind you, we're still in the housekeeping, so I'm giving reaction to last night. She did an amazing job getting Jade Cargill over. And that's not saying that Jade Cargill needed Dakota Kai, Bianca Belair, Naomi, Kairi Sane, Asuka, but to set to eventually Jade Cargill going on a singles run and Dakota Kai getting a singles run outside of Damage Control, you're setting up a future feud there to where those are two world-class women that could entertain for minutes on end. You know, I would love to see Dakota Kai reunite with Tegan Knox and have Team Kick again. Are we going to get that? Maybe. I don't know. You know, maybe they could take the curse off the tag team titles for all I care. Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair, Naomi. You also set up a lot of possibilities there with those three women. Jade Cargill is the truth. You know, yeah, in her AEW run, did she a little green? Sure. Is that anybody's fault? Not really. But now that you have the Nightmare Factory, Dustin Rhodes' Rhodes Wrestling Academy. Yes, Rhodes Wrestling Academy down there in, I believe, either Leander or Liberty Hill. Get in touch with Dustin. That man has a wealth of knowledge that will make you a star. Whether you're a referee, you are a wrestler that wants to be a part of this revolution, this new era, this emergence of professional wrestling again. You know, it took 20 years to build to the crescendos each time, to build to this peak of the mountain to where, okay, now we have another edge and another summit to attain. Oh, to where, you know, we have these places that wrestlers can go that they don't have to worry about, oh, hey, this company is not going to hire me. But we also have athletes now, athletes that have an opportunity. If the NFL, the NBA, the WNBA, the NHL, the Major League Baseball, Shaky, who used to be with Jinder Mahal, was the subject of a movie. $1 Million Arm. Look it up. That, you know, we have all these places now who have talent tied to AEW, WWE, MLW, New Japan, the dojos in New Japan. You know, I'm never really going to talk ill about another brand. I may give my critique, but let me tell you, that brand, I kid you not, will hear my thoughts. I might not be right. I might get told to shut up. Cool. But that match highlighted and showcased all 6 women. No doubt that those women will stand it out as they go in their own individual and team spots. But it was the right finish. It was the right finish with Dakota Kai putting over Jade Cargill with that wheelbarrow attempt at a wheelbarrow bulldog into a glam slam. It was a beautiful finish. The main event. I love the main event. I love the story it told. I love the callbacks to Endgame, Infinity War. That, you know, you had the final boss, and the final boss could have been Rock could have been Roman's Ebony Maw. Okay. Now, I don't know what to compare Rock to if Rock turns on Roman tonight and helps Cody finish the story. Because remember what was said the first week of February, on SmackDown in Birmingham, Alabama, by Cody Rhodes. Roman, I'm going to take everything from you. and that I have taken counsel of many different legends to include this one. Now, I don't know what the fox in the hen house term is, or the snake in the chicken coop, but if I'm Roman Reigns after last night, I'm keeping one eye on Cody Rhodes. I'm keeping the other on your cousin. Bloodline rules. No holds barred. Anything goes. Triple H gets Solo. And I kid you not when I say this. We better get Solo singing the national anthem tonight. That's what people in Philadelphia paid for their ticket for Solo to sing the national anthem. That being said, the entrances were amazing. Seth Rollins came out wearing God knows what, but it's Seth Rollins, and it got him over. Cody Rhodes came out wearing the combined symbols of the Nightmare family and the Seth Rollins brand. Yes, I said brand. Okay. Revolutionary, visionary, architect. Roman didn't need to wear something flashy. I think they call it the ulai that sits around his neck. That's all he needed. And the championship. The Rock. The Rock's the Rock. You know, the title most electrifying man in all sports and entertainment or professional wrestling, whatever you want to call it now. He stood out perfectly. That final boss emergence. 15 minutes on entrance alone, ladies and gentlemen. It made a match especially. And we got 30 minutes of some of the hardest slapping. Didn't have Jimmy Uso, didn't have Solo Sikoa have to make the run-ins. We got the interactions with Rock's mom and Mama Rhodes, Michelle Rubio, Runnels. Perfect way to build night 2. Infinity War. To when Captain America is sitting there bewildered that he thought the world had just ended, or at least that Thanos had won. Which in reality, in that moment, that night, that day, Thanos did win. We had to wait 5 years. Okay. To where tonight, Endgame, we've waited 5 years or our 2 years. So we've waited the time to finish the story like Endgame did. Okay. Tonight, going back to the previous night. Let's go back to Saturday real quick. The Rock taking the bumps. A lot of people were worried he wasn't going to be able to take the bumps, or that he was going to be a little bit more fragile than the last time he wrestled. That wasn't the case. Rock looked like WrestleMania 17 Rock. Yeah, there were some slip ups. He hasn't been in a wrestling ring in front of a major audience wrestling since WrestleMania 32, and that was a 6-second match. And then when the match harkened adding John Cena, even then, wasn't very long. So his last real match was WrestleMania 29. But he looked polished. Gallus, Joe and Mark Coffey, and Wolfgang. I applaud you and Bobby Roode and Michael Hayes for, putting Rock through the ringer and getting him WrestleMania ready. He looked amazing last night. Roman's Roman. His pace, it tells a story. Whether it's done in 15 minutes or a whole damn hour and a half, it tells a story. Seth was a great foil for taking a lot of the bumps that he didn't have to take and a lot of the beating that he didn't have to endure. But, Seth can harken back, and he can't. When it comes to Drew McIntyre later tonight, Drew McIntyre, he can probably sit there and go, yeah, I beat Seth Rollins fair and square. But that Seth Rollins fell on his shield for Cody Rhodes, even though Cody took the fall last night against The Rock. That he can feel good that if it was his last Raw as heavyweight champion before Sunday night, it was what it was. That if one champion must fall, another champion at least gets a chance to rise. And that Cody takes the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, which I hope to God they return back to either this one or a modern version outside the one that Rollins wears now, or they go back to the Winged Eagle. You know, for that belt to be held by Cody Rhodes, even though the modern edition of Seth Rollins, that would bring tears to my eyes because it was held by him and by him and Undertaker and Triple H and Edge, and Kurt Angle. I don't think Steve ever wore the big Goldie, but these were men that had an opportunity, in all reality, to wear the same championship at one time. Now, the Winged Eagle, yes. The Winged Eagle is hearkened as the granddaddy of them all to WWE fans. It is the one that stands out in everybody's mind. Big Eagle, in which Austin was bestowed before the Smoking Skull belt. We liked, but it wasn't the Winged Eagle. If it's a modern version of the Winged Eagle with the new, WWE scratch logo up top, cool. Not going to be mad at it. If it comes with, subtle, not going to be mad at it. But that's saying if it happens tonight. I mean, hey, they could let Roman go to September and break Terry Bollea's record, Hulk Hogan. For those of you that are listening, could have him break and then wait till September for Cody to finish the story. I'm not Triple H. I'm not Paul Heyman. I'm not the minds and ears and mouths of the creative team there for WWE to really. I'm an opinion speaker. I'm not a truth seeker. I could be wrong, and that's being human as a fan to go, okay, I was wrong. Next. But Cody Rhodes taking the fall was just fine with me. Yes, people were going to hate that finish and the Bloodline Rules stipulation now being in effect, but you know what? It makes a point. It really does. It makes a point so that Cody can finish the story. That his story was overcome by adversity and that he overcame said adversity settled upon him. That's the thing, is Shawn Michaels. Let's go back to WrestleMania 12. Shawn Michaels at one point in time probably was never going to be saddled as WWE champion or then WWF champion. That Bret Hart was the measuring stick. And in a lot of people's minds, he is the measuring stick to a lot of professional wrestlers to this day. And Shawn sat there after overcoming an hour and 5 minutes of wrestling, probably one of the most technically sound professional wrestlers, if not the most technically sound professional wrestler in the history of the game. The excellence of execution, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. Now, mind you, I don't agree with a lot of his viewpoints on modern contemporaries, but you know what? I'm not Bret Hart. I didn't step in that ring. So, what he knows. But he is, without a shadow of a doubt, what he says he is and what others say about him. But the fact that Shawn Michaels at one point in time was just fodder for a world title match until he stood there in the middle of Anaheim, California with Bret Hart, finishing him off with a super kick that came out of nowhere after an hour and 5 minutes of wrestling. That's how I see this, is that for Cody to be the first Rhodes member of his family to hold a WWF, WWF, WWE World Heavyweight Championship is along the same ascension as a Steve Austin or an aforementioned uh, Shawn Michaels. Do I think it happens? Yes. Why? Because it's time. And this is nothing against Roman. You can look it up right now. Even though people consecutive days, Hogan is still number 2, Reigns is number 3. Look it up right now. Roman Reigns has more collective aggregate days as World Heavyweight Champion, Universal Champion, the major championship holder than the immoral Hulk Hogan himself. He does. Look it up. He is behind Bruno Sammartino, the longest reigning heavyweight champion in WWF, Capital Wrestling Corporation history. Okay. That being said, round 2 of homecoming or housekeeping or whatever I was calling it. AEW. Now let me preface this real quick. There's a lot of amazing talent in AEW. And you know what? When they first came about, I was kind of excited because we're an alternative. What does an alternative usually mean? Something that's different, something that's not the norm, that's not cookie cutter. It's supposed to stand out and give you an option. And at first, it was a perfect option. Not gonna lie. But then they started making the common mistakes that other companies, excuse me for a second here, that other companies have made by going after the big dog. Why are you going after WWE? Why? What's the point? Why take shots at them? Make your mark as your own company. Yes, you provide a lesser schedule, more home time for your talent. Guaranteed contracts. Get his folks health insurance, whatever. But going to what was said on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, very good podcaster himself, voice of the people in regards to opinions, whether professional wrestling or MMA, and him and CM Punk, and CM Punk said he didn't want to litigate it, that he wished them well. But if you act like a grown ass child on Twitter, and I'm pointing to 3 people, and they can figure out who they are. If you act like a grown ass child on Twitter and you're trying to make it look like, oh, CM Punk bad. No. There were several different parties in the all in and all out scrums that are at fault. You are not the hero. You are not the accosted. You're as much the accosted as the victim. Stop placating that you're the victim. Yes, CM Punk was in the wrong, but so was Jack Perry. So was Mark Jackson. Or Mike, whatever. Matt Jackson, excuse me. So was Nick Jackson. So was Kenny Omega if he was involved. So was Ace Steel. Okay? You can only look at yourselves and blame yourselves. I mean, you sign NDAs for God's sakes. So there's stuff that I'm sure we haven't been told and we'll never be told what happened in those events. And if CM Punk feels that it's a business not predicated on money, go look at your arenas right now. It's a damn shame for as much talent you have on your roster. Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker, Tony Storm, Deonna Purrazzo, and Virtuosa is a part of your crew. She is a technically sound female talent that should be night in, night out, right there with Tony Storm. Chris Statlander. You have women that should be having a run or a cup of coffee at least AEW Women's World Title. You should. Not gonna mince words here. But Rosa, another perfect example. There should be a healthy mix at the top. And usually it's just the same one or two. Ruby Soho. Ruby Soho could have been, now that the McMahon era is over, probably could have been women's world champion or women's WWE champion several times by now. Of course, Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis and whoever else didn't see the worth in their talent, and I guarantee you they had talent in spades. You know, and under this new regime with Paul Levesque, Triple H, finally we get a chance to see those talents shine. And hopefully we get to see a Ruby Soho or Riot come back. Malachi Black, Brody King go over and be the badass that I know he can be. A Buddy Murphy, Buddy Murphy can show he's greater than being a cruiserweight talent. Point blank. Remember what I said about Paul Heyman said? That he gets to work and build main eventers that you can put on any part of the card, and it would be the main event of a WWE event. The tribalism only exists because you have people that want to fan the flames of tribalism. You have talent that want to fan the flame of tribalism. But yet you also have talent that supports their brothers and sisters in other companies. GCW, for example. Shayna Baszler going back and benefiting Bloodsport. Faced Masha Slamovich, which she is a bad woman herself. A tough daughter of a in her own right. And those individuals got to show out. Brett Lauderdale. I am glad that Brett Lauderdale carries many different relationships with many different portions of the professional wrestling business. I really am. You know, I got to see him walk out of an elevator with Stephanie McMahon at WrestleMania 38 Night 1. It was within arm's reach at a merch table with my daughter, Night 1. And got to see them, and they waved, and it was cool that you could see people have that relationship and be able to thrive that relationship outside the business to where the forbidden door, which I could agree with Triple H, is a stupid term. There should be no door. We should all be able to have New Japan come over to WWE and AEW interact. You know, make compelling TV. But here's the thing. If the biggest vocal talent of the last decade, who wasn't in a ring up until 2021, so he had not been in a ring for 8 years. And all you do is take the guy who gave you one of the biggest houses in all professional wrestling history, outside of All In, being the largest independent show in American history. And some people can't take some advice, or that people have bad attitudes because a buddy of theirs didn't get along with the guy at some point. I don't buy it. I don't. I don't buy that you can't professionally move on. This little stunt that they're going to pull Wednesday at Dynamite about showing the fight between CM Punk and Jack Perry. Why? Who does it benefit? It doesn't benefit CM Punk. It doesn't benefit Jack Perry. It sure as hell doesn't benefit the Young Bucks and Nick Khan, or excuse me, sorry, Nick Khan, Tony Khan. It doesn't. It's worth time. It's not worth the effort. Put a match in there. Put Malachi Black on there. Put the House of Black. Put your talent in there. Quit making it about you. Oh, my feelings are hurt because CM Punk said this. You know what a true professional does? Oh, okay, he said that. Cool. Okay. On to the business of professional wrestling. On the business of being an alternative like you said you were going to be. On to the business of not trying to be WWE light. Okay. Tell me when I'm telling lies. Finally, talk about night 2 real quick, and hopefully we'll be for Raw after WrestleMania. Night 2, we've got probably Drew and Seth opening the card. It's the right match to open the card. It gives a whole array of options how the cashing could possibly be done, everything else. And the inclusion of the aforementioned CM Punk on commentary. Somehow he's getting physical. But I see Drew Galway, Drew McIntyre, however Drew is going to be after tonight, taking the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Let's see here. We have, I believe it's what? Orton. Crap. Orton, Owens, and Paul. I'd love to see Kevin Owens get over and become champion. I mean, it might be a nod to Randy Orton to give him a mid-card title run just so he can build new talent. They may keep it on Logan Paul for all I care. And it's not just on Logan Paul. He's actually been pretty impressive as a crossover talent from being some celebrity boxing dude to now this somewhat day by day more polished professional wrestler. Let's see here. We have the Philadelphia Street Fight. The Street Profits and Bobby Lashley, the Pride, Power, whatever they're calling themselves, against the Final Testament of Karrion Kross and AOP. I see Karrion Kross and AOP going over simply for one thing. It'll finally set them up. Bobby Lashley and Street Profits don't need to get over. They are over. Montez Ford is a bona fide singles talent and a future heavyweight champion in my eyes. Point blank, not going to hold any punches. Montez is a future WWE champion. Bobby Lashley is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Don't have to give you his credentials. Angelo Dawkins, in his own right, could hold his own historical career if he so chooses. But right now, with an AOP carrying cross win would shed the McMahon skin, the Vince McMahon cuts and shadow off of Karrion Kross and AOP. I see Karrion Kross and AOP going over, like I just said. Let's see here. Then we have Io Sky, I believe just Io Sky and Bailey going. The one thing that Bailey has never had at WrestleMania, I believe, is a women's title match, a standalone women's title match. I might be wrong. Let alone being the women's main event of any night on the card or any card within the first Hispanic woman, first Japanese one, or no, the second Japanese woman, excuse me. Better not besmirch Asuka. To have the first Hispanic woman in a truly Hispanic woman, Latina, Latina, whatever you want to call it. Main event, night 2, against one of the most talented Joshi wrestlers in the history of the game, Io Sky, Io Shirai, is going to be amazing. It's not going to be a 5-star classic, but it's going to be good. And if you've ever watched a Bailey match, whether in NXT, WWE, whatever, she's good. Or as Booker T says, good. Pretty much good. Sorry, Booker T. Let's see here. What else? Then we've got the main event, I believe. And that's it. The main event, Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. The American Nightmare versus the Tribal Chief. Bloodline rules. So anything goes. Endgame. You see a defeated or beat up Captain America, such as what Cody Rhodes looked like last night. And I don't know if anybody paid attention to the color of his robe. Some hints there. Some hints. I expect it to be a barn burner. It's going to be another 45 between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. And remember, this is where I see what Cody Rhodes and The Rock were hinting to on February 3rd in Birmingham, Alabama at SmackDown. The Rock is going to turn on Roman. The legends and some of the talent that have been by the bloodline, to include Jey Uso, will come back to haunt Roman Reigns tomorrow night. That on Roman's 1315th day as WWE undisputed Universal Champion, Heavyweight Champion. You know what? Hold on. I always wanted to do this. The reigning, defending, undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion of the world, Roman Reigns. Shout out to now WWE Hall of Famer Paul Heyman. That I think the reign ends tonight. And what a glorious reign it has been. Okay, oh yeah, he hasn't had very many matches in the 1,000 some odd days he's been champion. No, he hasn't. But every one of those matches told a story. Every one of those matches were box office. Every one of those matches told the story. I think you're going to catch on to the hint here. We're finishing a story tonight. So, what better storyteller to be the one that writes Cody Rhodes' chapter in the same ring than Roman Reigns? So, I'm going to say Cody goes over tonight. We're going to have a brand new WWE champion, brand new undisputed WWE Universal Champion. However, they're going to keep I wouldn't be shocked. Even though the belief is he probably is re-signed with AEW. It would be not outside the realm if WWE didn't swoop in at the 11th hour and a certain Minch from Rosendale, or I'm butchering this too, from Long Island. I'm better than you, and you know it. Salt of the earth, Maxwell Jacob Freeman, or MJF, shows up at WrestleMania tonight to help out Cody. That would be. Now, I would say maybe you say that surprise for WrestleMania, or excuse me, the Raw after WrestleMania. Who knows? Who knows? Do I expect to see some newly signed women's talent or somebody shocking on Raw that you haven't seen in a long time, or NXT talent for that matter, being brought up to the main roster? Lyra Valkyria, perfect example. Hell, Tony D can go to SmackDown. Now the family gimmick is going to be kind of gimmick-y, but I think he can make it work on SmackDown. I mean, we're winding down the Anoa'i Fatu Samoan dynasty for the time being, and you can bring up new talent to fill out that faction spot. Do I think that Tony D would probably be a main event player right away? No, but build his family, build his faction. Build. And beyond that, we're going to get some really good television come Monday. We're going to get Fallout from WrestleMania. We're going to get probably the main event, night 2 of WrestleMania 41, announced tomorrow night. Or maybe saved to Friday. Who knows? I think that's all. I'm Chris Branson, and like I said, this is the card subject to change, or just in case anybody already has this name to be determined podcast. Open to speak on other people's podcasts, to the art, the story that is professional wrestling, to my fandom, and what I think about the world of professional wrestling as we talk. I hope you enjoy this podcast in my mind a little bit. Opinions, I'll be one game to hear about them on the Twitters and the Instagrams and wherever else these stories end up. Till then, this is Chris Branson with Card Subject to Change podcast, or Named to be Determined podcast. You have a good WrestleMania Sunday.